Welcome. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Damola, good to see you. Hey, Kelly. Come on in, folks. Happy Friday. Hey, Carla. All right, we're getting a full house in here. Welcome, Judith. Welcome, Pervy. Good to see you. We'll get started in a couple of minutes. Just let folks continue to trickle in. And while you're waiting, feel free to drop a response to our warm-up question pinned in the chat. What's one win you have from your week? What are you celebrating? No matter how big or small, let's hear something that you're feeling good about at the end of this week. It is Friday after all. So we have that in common, but I'd love to hear what's something that you're feeling good about. Welcome, Carla. Yes, I feel that. Yeah, this week felt, at least for me, kind of like an uphill battle. So I'm excited that we got to Friday, got to the weekend. Alexis, this week went by so fast. Proud of myself for getting here too. Yep, definitely share in that. Yeah, and we got a full week of focused work done for members that are settling in. I see some of my regulars. It's also really exciting to see some new folks in the room. Welcome, Taylor. Alexis, we're also making some big progress on new features coming to the Focus app too, which is very exciting. Stay tuned. Yes, very exciting. Mariah, have a draft of my chapter ready to go. Been hanging over my head for too long. Oh, I know that feeling. Nice, Mariah, congratulations. That's a really big deal. All right. Well, I think we're ready to get started, but please continue dropping your wins from this week in the chat. We love celebrating our wins, big or small, in this community. And while we're still waiting for folks to drop in, if you'd like, you can print out the weekly planning worksheet that we're going to be using today, or you can just open the link on your computer. I've pinned it in the chat, but I'll drop it again. Or if you're like me and you like to take notes manually, I welcome you to just create those sections in a fresh sheet of paper in your notebook if you'd like, whatever you prefer. So I'll drop that link one more time in the chat for you to check out. Awesome. All right. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Refocus and Recharge. My name is Farah. I'm your Focus-based host. Many of you already know me, but for those of you who don't, I'm very excited to meet you all. I host wake-up calls, which are our morning goal-setting sessions, as well as our community sessions, which are our work sprints that are facilitated by a live host. And so I'm very excited because this is my first weekly planning session that I get to facilitate with this community. If you're not too familiar with Focus, we are an accountability community, and we help you with productivity and mindfulness and provide a space to have some intentional relationships with your work. We do this in a number of ways. We have morning planning sessions, we have live work sessions that I mentioned throughout the day, and we also provide one-on-one accountability support from our fantastic team of hosts, including myself. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me, you can feel free to reach out by email. I'm going to drop that in the chat for you. And always welcome any questions that you have about our offerings or our framework. Welcome, Cecilia. Let's check out the chat again. Oh, okay, link isn't working. Oh, thank you, Alexis, for dropping that link. Let's see if that one works. Welcome again. For folks that are just joining, I've pinned the link to the worksheet in the chat. I'm also going to pin Alexis's message here. Let's see if I can copy this one, just in case that link didn't work, to our weekly planning worksheet. And let's get into it. So first, let's talk a little bit about our approach to weekly planning. Our goal together today is just figure out what's important for us next week, and then we're going to make sure that we're creating time for that. So by putting together this plan, we'll hopefully feel a little bit more inspired and a little bit more motivated for what's ahead. Hopefully resist some of the Sunday scaries that might pop up throughout the weekend. And so to give you some more idea of our format of how we're going to approach our time today, you'll take a look at this worksheet and you'll see that we have three main sections. We have our reflection, which is what we'll start with, our refocus, and then recharge. So reflection is where we're going to log what went well this week and what we want to do differently. By doing this, we're trying to figure out how we want to approach next week and sort of what are some of the small incremental changes that we can make to our daily behaviors, our mindset, all those things to help us get there. With Refocus, we're going to be looking at what we want to do next week. So let's try and figure out our most meaningful goals for the week and be really intentional about shaping them in a way that's effective for us. And then finally, we'll get to recharge, which is super important. This is where we think about how we're going to take care of our minds and our bodies and make sure that we have the rest and the momentum to keep us energized next week. And then once we're done tracking these items, you'll have a plan that you can use to jump into Monday confidently and with a tool, both a visual and mental tool to hold you accountable to your goals. If you're already a focused member, you can keep this with you for your daily wake-up calls. As I mentioned, those are our morning planning sessions. And when you plan each day next week, you can carve out chunks from your weekly goals. I also encourage you to share these goals with your focus-based hosts to get that extra accountability and support throughout the week. All right, so let's quickly turn off the music because before we dive into our weekly planning, we're going to do a quick grounding exercise just to get us present in our bodies and minds, and then we'll dive in. So I'm going to turn the music off for this next part. And I invite you all to just join me in getting settled in. If you're seated, I encourage you to just push yourself all the way back to the back of your chair, get some support here. And let's just begin with a 3-breath meditation. Feel your feet flat on the ground. Have your body rested, however feels good. And let's just do one deep collective breath together. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. With this breath, we set aside anything that happened earlier today or earlier this week. Let's come in for a second breath again. Deep inhale through the nose. And exhale out through the mouth. And with this second breath, we let go of anything else we need to do, either later today or over the weekend. Trust that it can wait for now. And let's go in with our third collective deep breath, arriving fully at this present moment. Inhale through the nose. And exhale out through the mouth. See with this last breath if you can just approach this experience with some curiosity and gratitude for taking time to help your future self out by being here. And when you're ready, you can return to your breathing rhythm. Once again, feel your feet on the ground. You can even wiggle your toes or rotate your ankles, coming back into your body. If you have your eyes closed, I invite you to open them back up. I like to look away from my screen for a moment and just come back into this space. For many of us that are doing computer work throughout the week and throughout the day, it's a nice reminder to give our eyes a break from the screen for a second. And when you're ready, let's just do one big stretch up to the sky together. You can weave your fingers together. I like to look up, get a nice deep stretch in my neck. If it feels good to sway from one side to the other, I invite you to do so. And when you're ready, bring those arms back down. Nice deep stretch on the side. Like do a little shoulder roll to remind myself to keep my posture All right. And we are ready to begin with our weekly planning, folks. All right. So, as I mentioned, our first stop on this journey is reflect. So, as a reminder, reflect is where we want to log what went well this week and what we want to do differently. So by doing this, we're going to try and figure out how we want to approach next week and take stock of our habits, our behaviors, and our mindsets that are maybe helping us or hurting us in accomplishing our goals, and try and figure out how we can move forward in a way that's most effective for us. So for this next part, I'll turn the music back on and I'll explain a little bit more about how to get geared up for this reflection. Let's turn the music back on. All right. So, a good way to organize our reflection of this past week is by using the start, stop, and continue method. You may be familiar with this. With start, we think about what we want to start doing next week that may support us in making better decisions or building better habits. And then with stop, we want to think about what may not be working. What is something that really didn't help us this week, and what's something that maybe we can sort of cut back on. And then lastly, we have continue. And this is where we think about what's working well for us and we want to keep doing. Maybe this is a habit that you're still working on, or a habit that you're really solid in and you know that it's a vital component to your routine. So it's something to think about. And we'll spend about 3 minutes here to log our thoughts. And I encourage you to, while you're doing this, share in the chat what's coming up for you during this reflection, anything you want to start, stop, or continue doing based on how this week was for you. I'm also going to drop in some of these thoughts in the chat so you can have them while you ponder this part. And I'll stop here while you work on that. In this last minute or so, while we reflect, I'd love to hear some of these reflections you're jotting down. So if you're open to it, feel free to drop in the chat any insights from your past week. What are you going to start, stop, or continue doing? For me, I definitely need to work on my scrolling, being on my phone so much. So that's definitely under my stop list. Liz, going to start planning a little bit more detail. Awesome. Continue coming to focus sessions. Yay. I really feel those 3 exclamation points. Still thinking about stop. Awesome. Nice, Maria. Gonna start or continue exercise first thing in the morning. Love it. Get some movement in. Alexis, gonna start meal planning a bit. more so I'm not left scrambling every day. Oh, I feel that. Continue finding a place to work that's not my living room at least once a week. I love that. Yep, the good old work from home challenges, figuring out where you're going to position yourself in your home. Nice, Carla, gonna start moving towards my future goals. I love it. All right, folks, I think we're ready for the next stop in our journey in weekly planning, which is refocus. So we decided how we want to approach next week. Let's work on what we want to do next week. What do we want to accomplish? So in this next part, we'll spend about 10 minutes refocusing, and I'm going to share some ways that you can really optimize your refocus strategy to come back in a better mindset next week and hopefully be able to feel a little bit more clear-headed and motivated on what we're working on. So let's get into it. All right, with refocus. So here's our recommended approach to refocusing. We have some tips up here for you. First, I'll check out the chat real quick. Awesome, Afwa, gonna stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Yes. Gonna start using what I already have in my toolbox. I love that. I love the simplicity, coming back to that simplicity. Awesome. Andrea or Andrea, please let me know. Please feel free to correct my pronunciation. Start planning a day, my husband, to get up early with our middle schooler once per week. Awesome. Gonna stop overscheduling, add more buffer in between meetings. I love that. Yeah. And then continue longer dog walks in the morning. Yes, gotta give some love to our fur babies. All right, so back to refocusing, got some strategies up here for you. The first one I have is a brain dump. This might look familiar to you. This is where we try and write down all the things. So here's where we're gonna jot down what's on our mind, what are we excited about, what definitely has to happen next week. You can do this sort of in a stream of consciousness way where you're just jotting everything down without a filter. And then I recommend taking a look at your calendar for this part, if that's helpful. That way you can see sort of what's on the horizon, what are some things that are absolutely on your plate. And then next, we're going to prioritize. This is where you decide what's the most important and see if you can pick your top 3 goals out of everything that you've listed. Once you narrow down those priorities, let's think about what support we might need. So for me, that looks like making sure to go to a focused wake-up call early in the morning so that I can feel energized and in community. And so I feel like I am accountable to others, both the focus host, but also after having shared my goals. It also can mean maybe asking a friend or a focus host to keep you accountable to your goals, or locking in an hour each morning to get some movement, which someone mentioned, or maybe a nourishing meal in before you move forward with the rest of your day. So while you're working on these, I'm just going to paste some more strategies in the chat so you can look back at them, and we'll spend just a minute or so here. Nice, Andrea, thank you for the correction. All right, keep working on that brain dump if you need more time. And as we continue our refocus journey, have some tips up here for you for really narrowing down those goals on your list. There's a reason why we ask you to really pick between 1 and 3 goals, so that you can sort of avoid getting overwhelmed, and so that you can continue building momentum, doing those incremental tasks that lead to achieving that ultimate goal. So if you do have more than 3 goals for this week and you're having some difficulty prioritizing and picking your top 3, that is totally normal and part of the process. So I'm going to share a few suggestions, and you can feel free to take one if it makes sense for you in your situation this week. The first suggestion I have is to try and figure out which goals will have the highest impact, and also which ones absolutely must happen. I always find it's really helpful to look at my calendar to get realistic about how much room I have for these. And then spending a few moments here to prioritize will also help you have more clarity next week. It'll take away some of the uncertainties that definitely contribute to procrastination. So if you're like me and you're prone to procrastination, this will really help out with that. The other thing is to leverage stretch goals. So narrowing down your top 3 goals, and if you get through those, you can add another goal to the top of your list. But it's also no big deal if you don't get to it. You can always add it to the top of your list the following week. So that's a stretch goal. See if you can just put a star next to any of the items on your list that could be stretch goals. And then the last strategy I have for you is goal batching, which you may be familiar with. You may already do it naturally. If you have a lot of smaller tasks, I would see if I can batch them together thematically. I find that when I batch together my smaller tasks into a bigger, chunkier goal, it helps me feel a little bit more organized and a little less overwhelmed by the sheer number of tasks on my list. As you continue to work on refocusing in this section, I'm going to drop some questions for you in the chat to help guide this process. Thanks, Liz. I'm going to add that second part. Thanks for letting me know. So here are the questions to guide you in refocusing. Let's share this last part. All right. So we're going to wrap up refocus. And before we move into our final stage of weekly planning, let's just move a quick stretch, keep our upper body warmed up and strong. Welcome on one. And let's just do a quick stretch. Let this really cute cat inspire you. I invite you to join me. You can follow along. I'm just going to do a big sort of wingspan stretch out to the side, lean from one side to the other with my palms facing out. Whatever you feel called to do in this moment. I'm then going to do a few shoulder rolls. These just help remind me to maintain my posture, especially if I'm seated during the day, sitting at a desk a lot. Sometimes I notice that my posture tends to suffer a little bit. And another really great sort of kind of a silly posture fixture is, if you like to join me, you can stack your arms one on top of the other and start sort of at belly button height and just sway from one side to the other without moving your hips at all. And you'll notice as you sort of rock back and forth, some of the creaks in your shoulders and your neck start to crack. You'll notice some of the tense spots being massaged out. And when you're ready, you can lift those arms up towards chest level and do the same thing, all the way up to shoulder level. And then if you'd like, even above your head. And when you're ready, big stretch up to the sky and come back down. I hope that felt good for folks. I hope you're feeling your spine strengthen and straighten a little bit. Awesome, got a thumbs up from Liz. All right, y'all, we are ready to get into our final stop on this journey. We are moving into recharge. So recharge is all about two really important components. We have rest and inspiration. Rest is all about how you're going to take care of yourself this weekend and next week. Here we're going to think about things like sleep, exercise, water, nourishment, maybe social connection. In my case, it's going to be cuddles with my dog. And then we have inspiration. Where will you look for things that will inspire you and motivate you? Maybe it's spending time with a friend or a coworker that you admire, going on a morning walk, as someone mentioned, before work starts, or trying out a new recipe or something creative that you can do to really spark some motivation and artistic feelings. So while you ponder these, I'm going to drop some questions in the chat that can help guide your thinking, and we'll have about 3 minutes here to wrap up. Awesome, Alexa. Thanks for sharing. Talking about solo dates in the chat for some rest and inspiration. Alexa is going to take herself on a solo date right after this, going to take a ferry from Seattle to a nearby island to work and walk around for the day. Oh, I love that. Oh, you know what? That kind of makes me miss living in Seattle. It is such a beautiful time of year over there. I agree, Liz. Sounds lovely. All right, folks. As you're wrapping up, I encourage you to drop in the chat and share how will you find rest and inspiration in the week ahead. Got some ideas. Amanda, sounds fun and relaxing. I totally agree. All right. And before we officially wrap up, I'm just going to invite you all to next week's wake-up calls. This is where we, every wake-up call has a theme that we explore throughout the week. And next week's theme will be all about using improv techniques as a fun and effective way to enhance our work from home experience. And this is a theme that's written by our fantastic host, Beck, who has a lot of experience in the improv world, so it'll be really exciting. Of course, if you'd like to learn more, I invite you to join us and set some goals with us. Set some goals and experience that one-on-one accountability and support from one of us as hosts. And with that, I thank you all and congratulations for taking some time to prep your future selves next week and planning your week ahead. If you enjoyed this session and you're not already a member, we have a really great promo going on right now, which I'll paste in the chat. And I'm also going to paste my email in there for anyone that has any questions, comments, or feedback. Please do reach out. And thank you all so much for joining. Have a great weekend. Happy Friday. Take care, y'all.
Thanks, Farah. That was awesome. See you next week.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one.